Russia hammers the Ukrainian capital with overnight missile attacks, killing at least 2 people and sparking fires in 2 districts of Kyiv. And it happened just hours before the British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, touched down in the city to meet with the Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelensky. Starmer arrived as protesters are filling the streets, angry over President Zelensky's dismissal of his defense minister. CNN's Claire Sebastian is following all these developments for us. Claire, how much of an impact could this change in leadership have on Ukraine's war effort?
Yeah, I mean, this is coming at a critical juncture in this war. Russia is clearly in escalation mode. Ukraine is in this desperate race for new air defense supplies. And this decision by President Zelensky to let go his defense minister, a very popular figure, Mikhailo Fedorov, has only been in the job 6 months, but he's seen as a bit of a technological whiz. He's credited with the expansion of Ukraine's drone program, with the big success they've seen over recent months in terms of deep and mid strikes, attacking Russia's oil infrastructure, the effort ongoing at the moment to isolate Crimea, and the improvement of Ukraine's fortunes on the front line. This decision has really touched a nerve, I think, among the people. We're seeing protests not only in Kyiv, but in other parts of Ukraine as well. People calling for him to be reinstated, very worried about where this leaves the war effort. This is the guy also, by the way, who convinced Elon Musk to shut down Starlink for the Russians, which was something that caused a lot of problems for the Russians back in the winter and early spring. So why is this happening? Well, President Zelensky said that he wants unity between the defense ministry and the military. It seems that Fedorov has clashed to some degree with the top levels of the military establishment, but I think the feeling on the streets is that people haven't really had a full explanation. And that, again, is why this has touched a nerve. But a critical juncture in this war, we're seeing these missile attacks going up, and I think this is going to lead to questions not only within Ukraine, but among its allies as well.
Huge losses, tiny gains, and lies. That's the reality of Russia's war on Ukraine. It's plain to see in the strategic town of Konstantinivka, where last week Russia planted a flag in its centre claiming its capture. But that's not true. Ukraine still holds lots of it. Yet its fate over the past year lays bare the crisis at the heart of Russia's war. Konstantinivka sits right on what's known as the fortress belt of heavily defended towns in the Donbass, the capture of which is a key Putin goal. Take it, and the other 2 remaining towns of Kramatorsk and Slavyansk are well within reach. But wind back a year, take a look at reliable battlefield maps, and you see a story about Moscow's persistence, but also how much tiny gains cost. Last year, we saw the road in was lined with fishing nets protecting from drones, but the town was under Ukrainian control and safe enough. But by November, it was being hit hard here in the southwest, with another drone video showing an airstrike just a few streets away. Ukraine still had troops casually in the city centre, and Russia was still really on the contested southwestern outskirts. It's in the first week of the year that the map records a big leap forwards for Moscow. But remember, their casualties across the whole front are estimated by the West at about 35,000 a month now, dead and injured. The Ukrainians are at this time still posting from the central railway station, but by February, white phosphorus is being used to horrific effect in the southwest. Even though the Ukrainians are still very much central. Jump forward to April, and the damage done is horrific. Drone images right where we saw the Ukrainians in November, as the Russians have slowly crept in. We saw how perilous it was to get in and out ourselves. The netting we saw 10 months earlier, now a graveyard for so many. Russian flags central this week, even if the maps show they're far from controlling the town. 1 year of tiny, tiny steps and doubtless thousands of Russian dead for a town that is relatively tiny itself. Russia's real weak spot in this war.
Ukraine facing what it said was its 5th assault by Russia involving ballistic missiles this month alone. So the frequency of that does seem to be going up. Now, it was able to avert, shoot down or suppress 5 out of the 8 ballistic missiles used, according to the Air Force. It has not been able to do so in some of the recent attacks. So what we're in now is a race against time. Ukraine and its allies racing to beef up Ukraine's defenses, as it's clear that Russia is in escalation mode. On Monday, they announced this anti-ballistic missile coalition. The core of that is to come together, Ukraine and its allies, to build what would be a cheaper alternative, a cheaper European alternative to the Patriot system. President Zelensky has also called for a winter air defense package involving some 300 Patriot interceptors. That is a huge number, especially given that the effective collapse of the ceasefire with Iran will put even more strain on US stockpiles. So this really is a race against time. And I think, look, the sort of concentrating the minds around Ukraine, putting forward this package to what it says would be to survive what will be its 5th winter at war. And all the while we see from Russia signals that it's not backing down from its maximalist goals and that it is in the mood to escalate here. Becky.
Yeah, Marco Rubio, I note, at NATO, making it very clear, and one assumes he's speaking on behalf of the administration. He was asked to speak in a press conference by Donald Trump after a question from one of the reporters about how the US perceived Ukraine's stepping up of attacks on Russia. And Rubio said that what he effectively saw was a real change in the sort of paradigm, the suggestion being that Ukraine really has got an upper hand, if not the upper hand at this point. We've seen Ukraine stepping up again with attacks on Russia. What's the Kremlin saying at this point?
Yeah, so as I said, the Kremlin is not giving any signal that it's willing to back down from its maximalist goals. We had the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov out today railing against sanctions. We hear repeated labeling of Ukraine as a terrorist state for its attacks on Russian soil. President Putin actually, in what seemed to be more off-the-cuff comments on Monday, said that Russia would continue to react, to respond proportionally to any Ukrainian attacks on Russian soil. And he said, and I quote, that the enemy, he said, I will continue to feel it going forward on an ever-increasing scale. So there's more evidence, of course, of the whole idea that Russia is in this sort of escalatory mode. And, of course, escalation on both sides. We're seeing on many occasions, and last night being one of those, that the number of Ukrainian drones heading towards Russian territory exceeds the number of Russian drones heading towards Ukrainian territory. Ukraine is making an impact in terms of the oil industry. We now see an uptick in strikes on tankers in the Azov Sea. That is not only a key oil route, but also a key route for Russian grain. So it is having an impact, and that may be playing into this Russian mood of escalation. They may be feeling that Ukrainian attacks are not only hitting their war budget, but also potentially the public mood, shortening their window to meet those goals militarily, if indeed they are able to do that. Becky.